morning and welcome to another edition of the Economy and Politics Show. It's a Friday, and of course, everyone's always looking forward to Friday, where you have the weekend beginning and wrapping up a very engaging week of work. It's September 18, 2020, and we, looking at the political space, will be focusing on the Edo 2020 Gubernatorial Elections. Wherever you are watching in Nigeria and across the world, these elections is 24 hours to go, and all eyes are on Edo State, which is at the heartbeat of Nigeria. So a lineup of discussions today will be around Edo State's elections, and we're looking from the political economic aspects and what we should be expecting. Well, first, let's begin with the overview of the economy and some developments in Edo State. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the total internally generated revenue in 2019 for Edo State was 29.47 billion naira. That shows that there's still a lot of room for improvement in terms of IGR for Edo State, and this comes particularly as we build up to the election. So for those of you watching, Edo State earned 29.47 billion naira in its IGR for 2019. In terms of industries that have been viable and are among the big contributors to IGR, we have Guinness PLC, one of the biggest industries in the country, with its plant operating in Benin. We have Okumu Oil Palm, and we also have Presco Oil Palm. These three are among the major companies in Edo State contributing to economic activities and among the major providers of source in terms of IGR. In terms of projects that can be called future and impactful projects in Edo State, currently the Edo Refinery, a 5,000 barrels per day capacity, a multi-million-dollar project, is still ongoing, and it's a project that whoever wins the election will have to continue and leverage on, which will create value for the state in terms of IGR, job creation, and economic activities. Then there is the Gelegele port. That is a port that the Edo State government has been taking seriously, part of the plans to improve logistics and also trade and development, which is part of the economic drivers in any region. The Azura Power Project remains a top priority, one of the big independent power project provisions that has a lot of financing. That project will also help to support power generation and distribution in Edo State, which is very key for industrialization and economic activities. In the oil and gas space, Edo State's urban area is known for a huge oil and gas zone, and that's where Seplat Development Petroleum Corporation has its facility, showing you how viable that axis of Edo State is. They are also, just to tell you that Edo State is an oil-producing state listed amongst the Niger Delta belt, and is also a major source of revenue for the states. That's oil and gas. And then there's a well talked about Okpela Mines, which is a huge gold mine. Currently, there are a lot of contentions between two big cement companies in Nigeria, that's Dangote and Boa, over that site, just showing you how very critical that mine site is in Okpela. So from that axis, you can see that there's a lot that will happen in terms of developing a viable cement construction industry and also leverage in solid minerals. So if you look at it overall, Edo State, in terms of economic viability, is one state you can ignore in Nigeria. Apart from its position as the heartbeat, there are a lot of economic activities there, and just for you to take note. Let's go on to the election. The contest now is very, very intense in terms of campaigns, and today already everyone is gearing up for the election. If you call anybody in Edo State, in Benin, in any part of Edo State, they are all telling you that everything is set, from the electoral process to security. So the contest is between two major candidates and two major parties. The two major parties are the All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party. The major candidates are in reverse positions from 2016 gubernatorial elections. And this, in terms of history, since 1999, hasn't happened like that before, where the same candidates are contesting and in reverse parties. So in 2016, Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu was the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, while Governor Godwin Obaseki was the candidate of the All Progressive Congress. But now it's the reverse, where Governor Godwin Obaseki is the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, and Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu is the candidate for the All Progressive Congress. The big question is, will Governor Godwin Obaseki get that second term he's seeking for, or would it be an upset for Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu? From the political analysis, we view it that it will be an upset if Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu wins this election, but it will be consolidation for Governor Godwin Obaseki. It wouldn't be surprising, because that's the analysis of his chances of winning, very bullish. So that's what we'll be watching from Sunday on 20th September, when we expect collation and the announcement of the results to begin. Last Sunday, 13th September, there was a televised debate hosted by Channels Television and Partners. It was an opportunity once again for the candidates to engage and provide response to issues on economy, health, security, and agriculture, amongst others. I must take this note to commend both candidates, because they have shown that Edo State is one state that values political debates and engagements. Apart from Edo State, Lagos State has always been leading, where all major candidates come out for debates, and Osun and Anambra states also have joined in that category. But out of the other states in the country, 4 states have continued to show that cooperation and value for political debates. And so we implore the other states in the country, numbering 32, to begin to embrace participatory political processes, including debates. And so, countdown to 2023, it should be taken into consideration and given top priority that major candidates from parties will participate in debates, articulate their plans, and let the electorate know how they approach various critical socio-economic issues. So let's begin with some of the issues they responded to. First was taxation. Now, taxation is one major issue, not just in Edo State, but across the states in the country. There have been concerns around the challenges of taxation as it affects businesses and individuals. And just to refresh the minds of our viewers, major taxes that states have access to include the personal income tax, the company income tax, and capital gains tax, amongst other, value-added tax. So those are, including the property tax. So those are the kinds of taxes that states collect. But there has been the challenge across the country where, apart from these taxes, there are other charges and harassment of businesses and individuals on levies and charges that are not captured in the tax net. So at the moment, we have over 100 different kinds of charges and taxes listed, which the Joint Tax Board in Nigeria, the Joint Tax Board, has been working tirelessly to compress, to ensure that it's a simplified process for people, and we hope states will embrace this. But what did the candidates say when it came to taxation? Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu said he will abolish multiple taxation, which he believes is a burden and a challenge for Edo citizens. And we'll look at diversifying the economy to increase revenue. He also said he will widen the tax nets in Edo State to ensure that the pressure is not on the particular set of people who have been viewed as economically viable. So he will widen the tax net if voted into office. He also said he will deploy a public-private partnership process to support activities in the state. That's Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu talking about how he will approach taxation in the states, because when you're able to attract private capital, it will help in terms of investments into the states. Let's move on to what Governor Obaseki said. If you can check it up, it shows that Governor Obaseki, from his part, talked about reinventing the tax process. Currently, he said that the challenge over the period had been a monotony of tax processes in the states, whereby individuals who are not supposed to be involved in the tax collection carry out activities that are inimical to the process. So he said he was going to address those issues and also widen the tax net, ensure that more people are captured and provided for in the fiscal space of Edo State. Governor Obaseki also said that the payee, which accounts for the largest portion of taxation, calls also for widening the tax nets. So both candidates agree that there's need to expand the tax nets and not burden the current economically viable people. Also for Governor Obaseki, it's leveraging technology to improve tax collection and compliance. The TIN is one process, as we see in Lagos State. Lagos State has been able to deploy technology to improve its tax collection process. And so for Governor Obaseki, leveraging technology will be very important for him if he will get the second term to serve Edo State, and that's what Edo people would expect to see if he wins the election. Now let's move on to another aspect of the economic discourse and looking at the challenge of projects, local debts. It was identified that Edo State's debt profile had risen to currently about 86 billion naira. And both candidates had to respond to how this issue will be addressed. For Governor Godwin Obaseki, he said he inherited a regime of reckless loans, that's from his predecessor, which gave a burden for him to manage the affairs of the state, but was able, from governance and ensuring fiscal discipline, to address the issues of unpaid debts to contractors, which was to the tune of 70 billion naira. So currently, state government is clearing those debts and paying them to contractors to ensure that the various projects that have to do with infrastructure are addressed and the state moves on. And also, he raised a very fundamental issue about how debt is utilized, because the way debt is used is very key for sustainability. And experts, international organizations and consultants have, over time, due research and impact assessment, reported that most loans that states have gotten have not been allocated to what it was intended for. So there's a lot of diversion of loans, which creates the legacy of debt that you see across the country. For those of us that follow the trends in the economic space, last week we reported to you that Nigeria's total public debt is 31.01 trillion naira. And so you can imagine how huge the debt profile is increasing, and part of this is because we're not getting states, or some of the states are not taking the loans and addressing the issues that they are being processed for. So for Governor Obaseki, he hopes to ensure that debt is sustainable and that is utilized for the transformation of the economic space of the states. But for Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu, it was an opportunity for him to tackle the government to say it has been a scandalous 4 years of Governor Obaseki, where loans are taken but not utilized for what it was intended for. And he highlighted issues like the Agric 2 billion loan for survey, which till today he believes did not meet its intention. The rice farmers and rice processing loan of 5 billion naira, which he also said has nothing to show in terms of the impact of that loan. And of course, the oil palm processing loan, which was about 69 billion naira, where he claimed and alleged that it was diverted and shared to the cronies of Governor Obaseki. Also, he said the government has also taken a $75 million loan, and he's worried that that loan also would go down the drain, where a lot had been promised in terms of human capital development, education, and healthcare. For him, the Governor Obaseki wasted so much money on projects that are not being utilized or showing viability, and these are part of the reasons why the state is in a debt profile that it shouldn't be. So for him, it's to clear all those processes and ensure that Edo achieves this sustainable debt profile. Well, the facts, the analysis will continue to monitor those developments around how those loans were utilized. But you agree with me that Edo State has to address its debt profile, has to push for debt sustainability and ensure that whatever loans are acquired must be reviewed and seen how those loans were utilized. If not, those states, if not addressing this issue, could get into a very serious sustainability crisis when it comes to debt. Another issue of a discussion in the economic space on the debate was the Edo refinery. And the Edo refinery, like I earlier said, is a 5,000 barrel per day refinery, described as an economic project that should create value for the states. For Governor Obaseki, it leverages the oil producing area capacity of the states, a modular refinery which has development provisions and could aid industrialization. Already, according to him, investment in phase 1 has been carried out and the project is in progress, while the phase 2, which is going to go up to $40 million, will be coming on board and almost 90% ready in due time. So far, that's the analysis from Governor Obaseki. But for Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu, he agreed that it's a necessity, it's a viable project, but was alleging that 700 million naira has been invested by Edo State government, showing unseriousness, considering the fact that it is in the region of oil-producing communities. So he was of the view that Edo State, under Governor Obaseki, is not leveraging the refinery project and will change that pattern. So again, how Edo refinery project is managed and if Edo State is getting value for it is a big question. So we'll be monitoring that after the election, because whoever wins this election will have to ensure that that project is in the interest of Edo State. Edo State doesn't miss out in terms of the investments there. The civil service is very important because they are the ones that implement governance and reforms in the states. And for Governor Obaseki, in terms of the civil service, he said it's not over-bloated. What they need are smarter people in terms of the operations, moving from the era where you had much of analog operations to a digital phase that helps processes move faster. Of course, he alleged that his contestant, Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu, when he was Secretary of State government under the government of Governor Adams Oshiomhole, sacked the capable permanent secretaries who were the eggheads in reforming the process and were supposed to provide mentorship to future permanent secretaries. He also said that currently his government is increasing human capacity building in terms of training, retraining, and exposure of the civil servants to various ways of improving their service delivery. But for Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu, the Governor Obaseki administration pattern is not working in terms of civil service reforms. For him, it is not bringing efficiency in the civil service. He particularly took on the issue of the security votes, which he alleged has increased under the watch of his contestants when other areas have not increased for the workers. He also said that over 38% of the teachers are unemployed, tackling one of the prime areas in which Governor Obaseki has been touted as the best governor in the country when it comes to education and digital education. He also identified the fact that currently Edo State is not doing well in health management. The whole process, staffing, and infrastructure is poor, and this again goes to the inefficiencies of the administration of Governor Obaseki. Now, in terms of governance, and this is what Governor Obaseki tried to explain, that there is need to rethink governance, there is need to ensure that facts are followed when allegations are made. But for Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu, it's very important that government manages funds effectively, and for the 4 years of Governor Obaseki, that has not been the case. Now let's go on to security, which is very important. Edo State, like I said earlier, is the heartbeat of Nigeria, one of the central points, a logistics base for Nigeria, and security is very important. For Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu, security will be top priority in his simple agenda, which is the agenda he's going to use to drive development in Edo State if elected into office. And so he's going to work with the federal government and also explore community policing and improve the infrastructure. One area he said he will leverage on is investing in technology for surveillance. he said it was fortunate that the government of his contestant, Governor Obaseki, has not invested in effective surveillance to improve the situation of security in the state. For Governor Obaseki, he debunked claims that his security votes have increased and said currently it is 5% of his budget, and committed to redesigning the security architecture through a hybrid format, working with the federal government, the police, and various other structures. He said currently they are working to improve security and intelligence in the states, but also claimed that the All Progressive Congress had lots of talks that are troubling the states, which he will give zero tolerance to if re-elected into office. The same issue was raised around kidnapping, which Edo people have raised concerns about, and Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu was particular about the Benin-Auchi axis, the road axis, and particularly a point called Iroposa. He said it was important that the government takes steps to work with the military and the police to cordon that area and ensure that they begin to dismantle the structures that strengthen kidnapping in that axis, and the need to also strengthen the vigilante groups across the state. For Governor Obaseki, technology is key for the security, and particularly addressing kidnapping, improving software and surveillance, and improving the relations between the police and other security outfits to address the issue of kidnapping. Now, one of the things that Edo State has, according to one of the candidates, been stigmatized on is human trafficking. It's something that has been rampant for years, even since the Fourth Republic of 1999. For both candidates, first for Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu, he pledged that the environment will be conducive for investments, because when there is an enabling environment and there's investments in the state, there will be job creation, and that will reduce the appetite for people to be involved in human trafficking. For Governor Obaseki, he touted the fact that working with the International Organization on Migration and the European Union, Edo State has adopted, through its task force, a robust strategy to address human trafficking, and it has been applauded across the country. Quickly to education, which is part of the Human Capital Index, which Edo State is seeking to gain relevance. For Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu, particularly with the COVID-19 challenge and the pandemic, e-learning is the way to go, and he said he was going to exploit and invest in it, particularly technology for all the schools to improve learning, and noted the fact that it was outrageous. This was an allegation he made again, that 11,000 teachers have been trained on e-learning at the amount of 1.5 million naira, which is contestant Governor Obaseki countered. For Governor Obaseki, of course, the Edo Best initiative, which I earlier talked about, has positioned Edo as a leading state in education. He said it will continue to leverage on that reform, transforming basic education in Edo through the Edo Best, which has become a globally noticed initiative. And then also improve learning tablets access for children and teachers, working with telecommunications companies to boost learning. The World Bank approved $75 million, which Edo State received under his watch. Governor Obaseki said will be used to ramp up the reach of children. Currently, 250,000 children have benefited, and intends to make it up to 1 million if voted into office for a second term. Healthcare remains a very key issue across the country, and for Edo State, Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu said the counts of doctors is low, only 200 doctors for a population of over 2 million people. The state's School of Nursery and Midwifery has not been functioning for 2 years, which he claimed and is wrong. And he made allegations about the governor and the central hospitals in the states not being equipped as expected. So for him, he will really invest more in healthcare and ensure that infrastructure and efficient service is guaranteed, particularly at the central hospitals that treat those of the low class. For Governor Obaseki, it's about rethinking healthcare, and rethinking healthcare has to do with infrastructure and also improving regulations and allowing private sector to invest more. He touted that there are 3 world-class private hospitals under his watch in Edo State. And he also talked about the Edo State Health Insurance Scheme, which he hopes to strengthen. Across the country, there's been a clamor for improved health insurance in the country. In terms of agriculture, Governor Obaseki was proud to say that the agripreneur scheme has been on and repositioning Edo farms and settlements and improving agriculture in the states. It says over 5,000 jobs have been guaranteed, with farms and yields being good. Governor Obaseki also talked about the fact that a database has been developed and will be leveraged to improve activities in the agro space, particularly the work of extension workers. For Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu, agri investment under his contestant had been a disaster. He raised again the various loans collected to address agro issues, which has not been feasible, and also laid emphasis on investment in small scale and commercial farms, which will be his focus if he's elected. In the area of jobs is a very important issue. Edo State's unemployment, after the last count, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, is about 19%, and it's something to be addressed. Governor Obaseki said under his watch, he has generated 157,000 jobs, which Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu countered and said it can be true, but again, these are the issues of fact-checking. And said his government has played an enabling role for investments and has reformed the civil service under his watch. And the government has been working with the federal government to open up the economy from aviation to other areas. For Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu, job creation has stagnated under his contestants, and this is glaring in the schools and low level of engagement in hospitals. He is of the view that there is need to address those issues. As for him, figures show that 8 out of 10 Edo people are unemployed. Security is key in getting investments to create jobs, and he will focus robustly on infrastructure to move the state forward. So what are the common things between these two candidates? I pick out two. Both are from the Benin area, Benin, and that shows you how interesting the election will be. And both have worked with the man called Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, former governor of Edo State, who has become a political political stalwart in the states, juggernauts, if you want to put it that way. And what are the key issues ahead of this election? First is that during the week we saw the video message from Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, a party chieftain and leader in the All-Progressive Congress, where he said people should not vote Governor Obaseki because he's not a Democrat. The Oba of Benin has stood for peace and has held meetings and called on the candidates to embrace peace, saying that peace is the only way to make this election process work for the people. In terms of security, the Nigerian police, Nigerian police has deployed 31,000 policemen for the election. So this is very, very serious election to monitor. And then, of course, this is the first major election since the outbreak of COVID-19 in Nigeria. So we'd like to see how we conduct this election and ensure that it doesn't spread the COVID case. Edo State is top 5 when it comes to high incidence of COVID-19 in the country. In terms of the local governments, there are 18 local governments in Edo State, and these are up for grabs. So the big question is, will the APC retain Edo State, or will it return back to the People's Democratic Party? Since 1999, here are the governors that have led the state. We have Governor Lucky Nosa Igbenidion. Since 1999 to 2007, he was a governor under the People's Democratic Party. Then we had Professor Saren Sumbo, who had a little spell between 2007 and 2008 period. And then Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, first under the Action Congress of Nigeria, before the party merged to become All Progressive Congress. He also had 2 terms, like Governor Igbenidion. So will Governor Godwin Obaseki also join the likes of Governor Lucky Nosa Igbenidion and Comrade Adams Oshiomhole to get a second term, or are we going to see an upset from Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu? All eyes will be on the elections. The voting process and order will begin tomorrow from 8 a.m. and so you can join updates, analysis, and the latest stories on WebTV. So we will give you the final announcement of the election over the weekend, and what everybody is suing for, is calling for, is a peaceful process. Edo State is critical. Even the international community has also reached out. The United States, the United Kingdom have pushed and made a strong statement on the need for a peaceful electoral process in Edo State. And we hope that Edo people, the political class, and all stakeholders will ensure that this election is hitch-free, it's free and fair, and free of violence, and at the end, the winner will be able to say, yes, this was a credible process. And that's what we expect for Edo State, the heartbeat of Nigeria, Nigeria's logistics base, and a very dynamic state with enormous potentials for industrialization and driving the economy. And that will be all for this edition of the Economy and Politics Show, special one on Friday. And of course, your weekend is set for you. We wish you a very pleasant weekend. But while you're in the weekend trying to relax, take out time with your family, maybe go visit people on that, even on your mobile phone or so, you can visit our website, www.prochange.com, to watch our videos with our news reports and analysis. You can also send your comments today. We're ready to receive them to news@prochange.com on these elections. What do you think about it? Who do you think will win? What are the key issues that we should watch out for? And we'll appreciate and respond appropriately. Till we come your way again, this is wishing our viewers a lovely weekend and a great week ahead. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day and stay safe. But don't forget, by 10 a.m., we have the market review. We'll be looking at an interesting report on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. The market review is a program where we look at the developments in the financial and capital market as it relates to the economy. Thank you and have a nice day.